Hello, kind people. This is Dmitry, and welcome to yet another listener recap. Uh, this one is going to be a reasonably short one, not because I'm still recovering from my cold. I have recovered now, but mostly because I went hiking in Dartmoor last week, and so I'm recording it uh, almost a week and a half after I solved it. And so some of the finer details, I think, by now have somewhat faded. So the puzzle is by Alchemist. I believe this. I thought this was a new setter, but let me double check that. Um, uh, no, there was one puzzle before. Okay, yeah, there was a puzzle called Remembrance, and it was about T.S. Eliot's Wasteland, which I think is one of those listener topics that, or thematic topics that has definitely more than one puzzle created about it. And I believe so is this one. So let's read the preamble, as we usually do. It's reasonably short. In a thematic work, the appearance of a heavenly body presages two people crossing paths. Their names cross at one of the great stars. For each of the other stars, the two cross-stitched entries clues are run together without overlapping in either order. The other clues have a letter misprinted. The corrections lead to the thematic work. Solvers must write the heavenly body's name below the grid. The chambers is the primary reference. So let's have a look. So we have a bunch of normal clues. So that is, there are across and downs. Then normal in a sense that you get, when you know the answer or the entry, you know where to put it. But they all have a letter misprinted. And then we have these cross stitches. So as you can see, we have different enumerations. So, let's say there are two of them that corresponds to the 5 and 6 pairs of entries. So let's find one of these maybe, since there are only a few of them. Okay, well, there's one. So this two entries, they cross at this star, and so one of them is 5, one of them is 6, and so the clues to that one is, either in this pair, so it's either here or there. And you don't know before you solve them. So obviously I think it's easier to start with the normal clues, the crosses and downs that are. And I think, in fact, my first 3 were like that. So let me show you one of them. I think this was the first that I solved. Ball finally is L, wedding vow is I do, so you get idle, and that is not darting, but that is rather darling, and so the misprint gives you L. The very next one was this one, and by now I'm not even sure I remember very well what it is. Oh yeah, so E is English, to claim is to state, and minor thus becomes manner, and the state is a manner. So there's another one. Maybe let me show you what was the third one. So this I still remember well. I think it was this. Thong of yours truly upset police force. So police force is met, typically. London Metropolitan Police. Once you upset it, you get TAM. Yours truly is I. An item is a thing, and so the extra letter here is I, or the correction to the misprint here is I, and so on. So maybe I should show you one of the cross-stitched ones. In fact, I believe this was one of the next one was sort of half of the cross-stitched one. Specifically, it was, I think, this bit. So occupied section that is held by POW, and the answer to this is BZ. So that section is a valid abbreviation. So S is a valid abbreviation for section. That is IE, and that is held by BUD. BUD is a POW, and BZ is occupied. And so that gives us one half of the cross-stitched entry, but because we don't really know the other half yet, we can't really compare the stars. So it turns out that it actually goes here, and thus we know that then, this thing starts with B, but the other way you typically do it is, when you solve both and you then establish which of the letters are possible as their crossing points, and then you look at the grid and try to position them. So once you do all of that, you arrive at a grid which looks like this. And if you read, and the hidden message from the crossing down clues gives you all clued stars in order. And if you then read all the clued stars, you get a Bayer tapestry, and the unclued star is where Harold and William meet. And the famous tapestry, which is, I think, coming to the UK this year possibly, or maybe next one, but reasonably soon, among other things, depicts Halley's comet. So this is, I believe, what you have to submit. So what do I think about all this? Well, I don't find it particularly exciting. Moreover, I think that I'm not sure, apart from obviously this being a tapestry, I don't really understand, how this kind of cross-stitching, why these cross-stitching clues are side by side. And also, in general, I'm not the biggest fan of double clues because they typically result in a rather clunky surfaces. I mean, here some of them are okay, especially the shorter ones, but the longer they become, it's less and less likely to be a sentence that, you expect to find in speech or in the paper. Like Latin pastor's invitation briefly colors sloth in secular film shown by church volunteers once having scoffed about it. A bit stretched. So, although, I looked back and I realized that some of my favorite puzzles actually do run this gimmick. And so, probably if I'm immersed in the theme more, I just tend to ignore it slightly more. But still not very convinced by double clues typically. Anyway, so this is last week's listener, and since then I solved yet another one, and I hope to, then that memory is very fresh now, so I hope to record it almost immediately afterwards. Thank you for watching, and see you next week. Bye.